But now I don't see those cobbles and curbs. I don't hear the blues anymore.
Rough Trade is giving away a third of the first 3 months of the Rough Trade Club plus new music membership exclusively to 101 Part-Time Jobs listeners. Become a member of Rough Trade Club New Music and you'll receive the Rough Trade Album of the Month straight to your door every month on exclusive vinyl pressing with exclusive bonus material. Club members have received exclusive pressings of albums from Sufjan Stevens, Sprints, The Last Dinner Party, Julie Byrne, and Over Mono, just to name a few, this past year alone. Sign up using the promo code CLUB101POD and you'll get the Rough Trade Album of the Month, English Teacher's excellent debut album, This Could Be Texas, on exclusive Galaxy Gold for a third of the usual price. Here's English Teacher on a recent episode of 101.
How many opportunities do you get to write a debut album and have all of this, sport behind us? I don't know. I really like the idea of holding the bar as being like classic songs.
You only get one shot at a debut.
Don't want the album of the month but still want all the benefits? Sign up to the standard tier using Club 101 Pod and you'll still get the first month free. You'll also get free shipping on all orders, 10% off the bar and on secondhand vinyl in store, and exclusive access to sold out Rough Trade events. So don't hang around. Go to roughtrade.com/club and sign up with the code CLUB101POD. That's CLUB101POD and claim money off the album of the month, English Teachers This Could Be Texas, today. This offer's available to UK residents only. Do you play in bands? I did for the longest time. And I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
The Vietnam War, it's over. Your job has just begun.
A new HBO original limited series.
Welcome to the world of spycraft. Strap in.
From executive producers Park Chan-wook and Robert Downey Jr.
What are you concealing?
Based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Viet Thanh Nguyen.
What if I told you that I was a communist spy?
How did you become this?
The Sympathizer, streaming April 14th on Max. Subscription required.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
I'm 100, I want part-time jobs. I'm 100, I want part-time jobs. I've been working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 101, 101.
Call the cops and tell them what I want. My battery's 100%.
Hey, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bitter. It's where I speak to bands and artists because it's a strange time to be making music in 2024. On today's episode, I speak to Jonathan Higgs, front person of Everything Everything. Brilliant band. Over the years, they have captured so many different types of music fans. They don't really fit into one kind of particular scene or crew, I don't think. They stand in their own lane. And their new record, Mountainhead, out on the 1st of March, is so much colour and energy and character profile to it. It's deep, it's shiny, it's magical. Big fan of this band. I was late arriver to Everything Everything, and you know, I don't think it's ever too late to get into a band, and a band that just totally cuts through. That's what Everything Everything does. I've got Jonathan Higgs here, who tells some excellent stories on this episode. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, make sure you subscribe, leave a review if you've got 30 seconds and you're feeling extra generous. I'm glad you're here. Shout out to our sponsors, 2000 Trees, the best medium-sized festival in the UK, in Cheltenham, just a few hours away from London on the train this July. The Gaslight Anthem and the Chats are headlining, Manchester Orchestra, Creeper, Hot Mulligan, Boston Manor, so many excellent bands at Trees. If you want to go, get your tickets now at 2000trees.co.uk.
Introducing Ampolo, the new app for musicians. Using AI stem separation, play along to any song, improving your practice and performance. Record audio or video and connect with musicians all over the world, collaborating and creating together. Think Google Docs meets TikTok, but for musicians. There's a huge range of video and audio editing tools, and the best part, it's free. Download today and make your mark. Ampolo, made for music.
Ampolo's the app to download if you want to practice your tunes on any instrument from home. But right now, on 101 Part-Time Jobs, about to release their new album, Mountainhead, it's Everything Everything's Jonathan Higgs. 101 Part-Time Jobs. All right, I'm recording now, so everything you say is on the record and may be held against you. Have you ever been arrested?
No.
Yeah, me neither. Ever nearly got arrested?
Yeah, because I was actually doing I was talking on the radio, and I had to wait for this call that was going to be live on Radio 1, which is a big deal. And I forgot it was going to happen. And I was out in the supermarket looking for flower pots. And I sort of went in, had a big bag on, because I actually bought some flower pots at a nearby shop. And then I was like, I'll just see if they've got any of the ones I really wanted in this other shop.
Price check.
And it was Morrison's, which is like Morrison's. I thought you were American for a second. It was in Morrison's, and then I went in and I was looking around, and then suddenly I got the call, and I was like, shit, I'm in the middle of a supermarket. I cannot do this in here. This is Radio 1 live. I have to run out of here. So I ran out of the Morrison's with this big bag on my back, and the security guy obviously thought I was doing something untoward and ran out after me. But by this point, I was on the phone to Annie Mac, and then the guy grabbed me and he was like, "Mate, empty your bag." And I was like, "Mate, I'm on the radio. Like, what am I? How do I explain?" And this guy, like, I think English was probably a second language, so there was this huge problem of me trying to explain this to him in a few words without completely ruining the interview on the radio as well. It's like, I'm on the radio, and like his face was just like,
that's
empty your bag, mate.
That is incredible. That is
So I had to empty them out. I had to empty out the flower pots while I was on the radio, which was pretty cool. And then he was like, "Oh, right, sorry."
Did you listen back? Could you go back to it and laugh at it?
I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. I can't quite remember when that was now. I think it was maybe on a fever dream, but yeah, it definitely happened.
Brilliant. Excellent. How are you feeling now? I've just spent the whole morning listening to Mountainhead, and the thing that I really get from it is, and this is very you from your interviews ever since like the very beginning, you're clearly a very thoughtful person and you're very articulate. And a lot of what I get from the lyrics is either about capitalism or it's about AI. Is that where your head's at? You're looking towards the bend in the road.
I wanted to talk about the current landscape, but without using the actual words, real words, because that's sort of crude. So I made a very, very basic analogy. that can be applied to much more than just capitalism. I think it's more about the mindset that we must keep just keep spreading and consuming our world. Maybe before there was such a thing as capitalism, we were still doing that thing. This idea that we must keep growing and the absurdity that I wanted to get across that I feel we have now is why I made it into a ridiculous thing, which is just making a mountain and there's no explanation.
Yeah.
And there's also a huge downside, which is that you have to live in the dark and you have to live more and more isolated, and you have to give up lots of things that are actually what makes us human, like the sun and stuff, clean air.
Yeah, it's like in order to build the thing that we think we should be building, even though we don't really know exactly what that is, we just have to keep on going. And hey, I will read it out because it's in another world. Society has built an immense mountain. To make the mountain bigger, they must make the hole they live in deeper and deeper. So that's the sort of basics of it. And talking about 101 part-time jobs, I want to speak to people about being in a band and the trade-offs that come with that, and where you get the visualization, where that to try and, water underground. That's kind of how songwriting is, isn't it? Because you don't really know exactly where it is. And of course, people like Lennon and big songwriters will talk about how it's about writing a song is a bit like putting your antenna up and trying to catch something rather than trying to define it. And in my experience playing in bands and wanting to, being interested in art at large, the tension between that and regular quote unquote work, that the analogy of building that mountain where we don't exactly know what we're building it for. I felt that many times in my life about I'm doing this because I think I should be doing it, but I don't know why. And actually it's not even making me feel better. Is that something that you can feel?
Yeah. I mean, I'm at a stage now where lots of those questions I'm asking myself, like, I don't own a house. I'm trying to buy a house. And I'm like, but do I actually, do I actually want to own a house? And do I really want a mortgage for the next 80 years? And I feel like that's a very, it's pretty obvious why you might want to buy a house, but there's a lot of questions like that don't have such an obvious answer that feel like a shared thing that we just, I guess we're doing. I guess we're all doing this thing. I guess we are. I guess we're going to Mars now, and I guess we must make everything more attainable instantly.
I call that the ASOS effect. I'm like, I'll get that denim jacket from ASOS, and I'll feel fucking cool, and then I'll get it. I don't actually feel very cool.
The consumption side of it is just rampant, and it has been our whole lives, our parents' whole lives. But it's so sort of ingrained that you don't really ever think about it.
Are we the generation?
None of what I'm saying is new at all. That's the thing that's sort of crushing about it. I read this book, Capitalist Realism, which I have read before, and again, it's not new. It's just a sort of it's just an analysis of where we are, and the deeper you get into it, you just sort of feel like, what is this? What are we doing? Like, what is this goal and this game?
Do you feel you can separate that kind of, let's call a spade, say what it is, that kind of existentialism? Can you separate that from your songwriting and being able to have a voice and a character writing about that?
Yeah, definitely. I've experimented over the albums, writing as different types of people or as imagined versions of myself and all that kind of thing. And I went really far with that on the previous record. So on this one, I thought, I'm not going to have any characters. I'm not going to have any Kevin. I'm not going to name anybody. I'm not going to have Jennifer. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. But simultaneously, I didn't feel as though I wanted to make a very personal record. I wanted to make it more. It is personal, but it's more about everybody rather than this is the thing that happened to me specifically. It kind of comes in waves for me on records. Probably the next album after this one might be more personal again. I don't know. It's not a hard and fast thing, and there are obviously quite a lot of personal moments on this. But I do find it easier to talk about large-scale feelings that I think everyone is feeling, or at least a lot of people around me seem to agree on, even if they don't know it or they don't say it. There's certain you can sometimes tap into a great unsaid thing when you make art, really.
Is that the gold? Is that the nugget of gold?
No, because then I would just be fishing around saying things that might have been said. And obviously I never really have a plan when I'm making anything. It's just to make something that I think's good usually. And then we go from there. There's
a great big push and pull. I mean, there's tension throughout all of your records, but spending this morning with Mountainhead, when it gets to Canary, I feel like I'm on a different plane, and then when it gets to Dagger's Edge, it is like, oh damn, this is a trip. This is a trip around the sun.
Yeah, I mean, Dagger's Edge has definitely got some. It's a story of two sides, shall we say? The first half is kind of like not quite tongue in cheek, but it's. Wears its influences quite heavily on its sleeve, and then the second half gets really sort of existential, and lots of the stuff I wanted to say on the whole album kind of happen at the end of that song, actually.
Yeah. Do you feel conscious about that, kind of like backloading it with what you're trying to say, and whether that's intentional or not?
No, it just fell out that way. I think you can sort of dance around it on a few things, but then sometimes you're just like, well, what could be better than just literally doing a laundry list kind of thing?
Yeah.
And I had this phrase, tomorrow's bacon, which I think is a Hunter S. Thompson quote. We're all tomorrow's bacon. I think that's it.
Okay.
But I didn't know that, and I saw it in a film called, oh God, it's like a hitchhiking film with Jamie Lee Curtis in, I think.
Oh, I'm awful with film names.
There's this one scene where she jumps up on the back of this truck and she writes in the dust, tomorrow's bacon. And I just thought it was a great phrase.
Road Games?
So that comes... Yeah, that'll be it.
Quick Google.
That actually appears in a song, Don't Ask Me to Beg, I think. And then again in Dagger's Edge, it's just, I keep repeating it because that's kind of my favorite thing that I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, where that imagery comes, I love it when you come across a phrase, or it could even just be a word like aplomb, where it's like, oh, I love that. I'm going to bring that into my vocab and hope my mates don't think I'm trying to impress them, but maybe they can be impressed. But I love it when you can find a word that you really feel connected to, and it fucking says what you're trying to say.
Yeah, there was something in that. Yeah, that's something in that really felt resonant to me. I can't quite explain why. It's something to do with the mechanism, the sort of mechanized way that we slaughter livestock, and
right.
this sensation of that, me feeling like I'm on a treadmill towards that, and everyone is, and it's just this sort of very brutal image, but the commerciality, like the fact that it's packaged as bacon rather than this horrific thing. And I eat meat, so this is not even something I can truly attest to, but the horror of it. And that's happens quite a few times on the record. There's a few mentions of the slaughterhouse and that world. I don't know why, but it felt something about selling horror and death. I tried to mention money or commerce in every song. So I'll talk about, I'm making so much money here, or I'll say I spent your money all of the summer, or you can sell me this, or I can sell you a fire hose, blah blah blah. Or I can buy this. It's every single song I try to include that some kind of transaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shall we say?
I mean, meat and money are quite close to each other. I eat meat,
they are.
and I know it's not right, and I know the world would be better off without it. But I still eat meat, and I don't really like the idea of having loads of money and taking money from my neighbor. But in order to survive, I will. And I'm chasing down invoices, and I'm trying to get fucking paid. And if you don't do that, then you're eventually going to die. And so that's the push and pull.
You'll become tomorrow's bacon, mate.
Tomorrow's bacon. I'll have it crispy, please. Crispy on the edges.
101, 101 part-time jobs. 101, 101, 101 part-time jobs.
Could you chart your journey as a songwriter? Have you had different stages as a songwriter? Of course, you started at a young age. I mean, everything started when you were a teenager, right?
Well, bands I was in from like 13, really.
Yeah.
Started writing songs around there. So, yes, those early ones were just about trying to mimic, I guess, and trying to get something together that sounded like a song.
Was it the music or the people, the friends, the social that pulled you into it?
It was both. So my brother played the bass. I played like the trumpet. My two best friends in my little village, their dad got made redundant, and he's asked them both what they wanted with the payout money.
Very good.
And my friend Jono said drums, and my friend Ash said a guitar, and they got them. And we just started getting into Nirvana around that time, and we kind of knew that they were a 3-piece, and that was like all you needed to be in a band. And I knew my brother had a bass, and I was like, holy shit, guys, we could actually start a band. And I couldn't play a note, and they were pretty terrible at their instruments as well. But we had like the absolute bare minimum for what you could call a band, so we just did it.
Yeah.
But really, it was just luck that they got those instruments. My brother had a bass.
And what kind of person were you the person who was wanging on people to get to practice, and were you getting on MySpace to book gigs quite rapidly?
Oh, well, yeah, later on. I've always been pretty terrible at self-promotion. It took a friend of mine to send a CD of my demos to a producer, I think, unbeknownst to me. So I'd given him a CD of my music, and he'd given it to this guy, and he really got the ball rolling. I don't know what would have happened if he hadn't.
We should find that person.
Yeah, I know exactly who he is. He's called Will Astley, and he lives in New York now, and he's in a pretty good band himself, called Mammal Club. Check him out.
Yeah.
The real calling card of everything I did early on was to try and make myself sound as different as possible. So I would, as soon as I got the feeling that I was using a chord sequence, like a Green Day song or something that was quite obvious and well trodden, I would erase it from my memory. I'd be like, I'm definitely not using that. I'm definitely not using 4-5-1. I'm definitely not doing anything, which resulted in lots of very ugly stuff and very awkward stuff. And that was still going on into Man Alive era, really. I was rejecting anything that I thought sounded like anyone had done it before. Even though if you were to analyze any of those songs, they've all been done before. Especially something like Two for Nero, it's just very, very obvious chords. Then once I'd made that record, I started to sort of come out of that mindset somewhat. But there's always been like a rejection of I don't want to say society because that's a bit strong, but anything that it seems a large amount of people are taking part in, I'm usually will position myself in opposition to it.
You're awkward.
It doesn't really matter what it is. So I'll have a political belief, and then I'll feel good about that. I'll feel strong in that, and I continue to. But then I will start to investigate the absolute opposite, diametrically opposed thing to me, and I'll actually start spending time in that community anonymously, because I want to understand. I don't know what it is, but I'm very much drawn to that, a deep suspicion of whatever the majority are doing right now. And I think that really got into terms of how I made music was, well, if they're all doing that, I'm going to do this. And then I guess really my songwriting career has been a slowly coming to terms with that and walking away from it and walking back to it and finding out why I did that in the first place. But certainly in the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, last say 2 albums, my focus is shifting more and more into writing the perfect lyric, and I'm less interested in writing the perfect piece of music. It's not even music, it's more like the how things sound, the production of things is getting less and less important to me. And I'd be more and more happy to just write a song that I think's great on a piano and sing it and say, that's the song. Listen to how good those lyrics are and how amazing that melody is. But being in a band with someone like Alex, there's a big push to push the production envelope, which is one of the many things that he's very interested in, and he's incredibly good at it. But it's been quite nice for me to just take a bit of a step back from that whole thing and kind of go, you know what, I don't actually really mind how this song sounds. When I present a song to the band, I'm like, this is the lyric and the melody, and I think it's fucking great. And you're not changing it, but how it ends up on the record, have fun, do what you want to it, really.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been a shift for me. To begin with, I was extremely adamant about how everything should sound and all that kind of stuff, and that's fallen away. And if I've got a strong idea and a strong emotion behind something, then I consider it like bulletproof anyway. You can do whatever you want to it because it's already great in my eyes.
I recognize the emotional work and the patience and everything that goes into staying as a unit, staying as a band for a number of years. You mentioned writing and Alex and the production, having that kind of relationship. Will the relationship always come first to you before the music?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be in a band, then you're in a relationship with 3 other people. Music is a byproduct of that, really. I think if you put the music first, then you're going to end up alone pretty quick, to be honest. That's
funny because, when you're listening to a record, there's two sides of the coin there, aren't there?
How do you mean?
Well, when I'm listening to a record, I think, wow, what an amazing, I'm listening to the music, of course. And I know that there's connection between those people, and I love that. I love seeing that I love being reminded, I suppose, that it is people. This is people making
it. Always is. The thing, it's weird because when you think of a band, say the Beatles or Blur or something, you think of the music, but it's completely intrinsically attached to the people and to their relationships and what if you like those people. I was thinking this recently, like, it's so hard to get into a band where you don't really like the singer. Like, it's just really hard. I was thinking about that. Like, I know there's some bands out there that everyone says are great, but there's something about them that I can't give myself over to it. And it'll be something like that is
you don't
not
like the look of
it's
them,
non-musical.
Or the interview.
It's
or
not
something.
Sometimes it'll be that their attitude or whatever. To suggest that music can exist as a pure thing separated from that, I don't think it's really real. Like if we stripped everything away in it, we had to listen to all music as like MIDI tracks, literally just notes on a page. Yeah, maybe the absolute best ones would still come through, but there's so much more to it than that. Like,
I think it's community as well. When there's an audience, I mean,
exactly,
I think of Idols, a band like Idols, and when I first listened to them, I liked them. But when I really started to like them is when I saw how galvanized their fans were and how wild their shows are.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a big part of it. A big part of any band is how they perform live. And bands that don't play live, they have a completely different type of, following, and you have a different feeling about them.
101 part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
You mentioned earlier that you'd go anonymous into kind of particular scenes. Would that be online lurking? What kind of stuff were you talking about?
I don't exist online under my real name in more than 2 places, I think. Mm-hmm. One of them's Twitter, and I'm pretty selective about what I tweet these days, which is very rare. It's never anything particularly... It's rhetorical, shall we say. I never engage with something and expect responses other than people to say, that sounds good, or, that's funny. Mm-hmm. I don't ever kind of go asking questions. And Facebook, which is private, and I never fucking use it. When we put an album out, I'll put a post saying, new album, guys, and everyone will go, oh, great, very well done.
Friends and family.
Exactly. So I'm online anonymously, like in 99% of my use of the internet.
And you'll look
as
for
are
stuff.
We all.
You'll look for stuff on Spotify and YouTube. Music, I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course. Oh, music. Yeah, of course. I in recent years, I have let the algorithm guide me with music more than I thought I would once upon a time.
YouTube's good at
getting
it.
better, but it's also very. It's just good at finding stuff that I wouldn't find otherwise, basically.
Yeah. How's that affected your relationship with being in a band? That idea that DSPs are really the place that you and I and everyone else is going to find music.
It's just yet another thing. I mean, the music industry has been completely chaotic since we joined it, basically. You had this stability of CDs right up to just when we formed the band, basically the end of the 2000s, when streaming really took over properly after the smartphone, and we were like, okay, I guess we do MP3s now. Then it was like, okay, I guess we have to be on Spotify now.
I mean, this is one of the 101 part-time jobs, right? I mean, can you be like, you think about this stuff? I mean, you don't have anyone. I mean, you'll have a team. You have a manager and a PR and the record label, but do you feel like it is your responsibility to think about this stuff? Well, think about DSPs and like have, know where you stand on playlists and have an opinion about it.
No, it's not really. There's a lot of people who are getting paid literally to know that stuff. That's the job of the label has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk, even during while we've been a band. Used to be that they would control everything and do everything. And as the tides have shifted, or whatever, the tectonic plates have moved, and we've grown much more independent as a band, their role has become much more about knowing how everything fits together in that sense. So how important DSPs are, which playlists you need to be on, that kind of thing. It's more about this very specialized knowledge and networks rather than this all-encompassing we run the industry thing that used to happen. It's very much they've had to survive and adapt, much just as bands have, and it's a totally different kind of relationship I have with the label now than I did when I started out.
You seem quite neutral about it. I feel like the energy you're giving off is like, this is what it is, this is what is part of it. I can't change it, you can't change it, this is part of it.
No, I mean, I'm a consumer as well as a creator, so I appreciate the fact that I can access all this stuff in my pocket like everyone does.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. obviously, I think it's good. But I think, I guess I'm neutral about it because it is my job, and it has been for a long time now, and it keeps changing. I'm still incredibly lucky to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to complain that Spotify doesn't pay me any money because maybe it never should have. Maybe paying loads of money to people that write songs was always a bit of a weird thing that happened at the end of the 20th century that never happened before or after. We just got into this little niche and got used to it.
The amount of times you read about musicians or artists that never really get paid until well after the fact, it's a common theme, isn't it? Have you been money smart in your time in the band? Have you been quite good at looking after yourself?
No, I think I've been the least good of all of us, actually.
In what kind of sense? What are you thinking of?
Just not saving and things like that, and just living a unusual lifestyle, maybe sometimes.
How unusual?
For some long stretches of the career, somewhat unusual. But I'm a bit more sensible now. Like I say, I'm trying to buy a house, but I still don't have one, and I'm nearly 40.
I was reading about a skateboarder that I quite like that will go every now and then. We'll go on sort of a big canoe trip, effectively.
Right.
And I think, yes, I'd love to do that. And
that sounds great. That sounds amazing,
doesn't it? Have you been much of a traveller? Are those the kind of weird walks we're talking?
That's honestly, I feel that a need for that more and more as time goes on. That's the kind of thing. No, I haven't really done any of. I've been around the world, but I've seen the backstage areas of around the world.
Yeah.
And not a great deal else.
Yeah.
I'd really love to do like a survival sort of a survival experience. Really, I want to go somewhere that's really dangerous and
Big
sort
time.
of half die.
Yeah.
By myself. That's what I actually genuinely really want to do, but I don't know if anyone will let me do it.
Drink some snake's blood to survive.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe not.
As long as it's not a squirrel or something.
No, damn. I've got a neighbour who's totally obsessed with squirrels. And I mean, like, really obsessed. Like, we're talking the definition of an eccentric. And she's an artist, and she has her big show coming up this weekend. She's so obsessed with squirrels. She got bitten by one last week, and it flared up, and she's going to have to postpone her show.
Well, squirrels are... I was very dismayed to discover that squirrels are really vicious, and one of the things that they do to their enemies is they bite their bollocks off.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds quite Brothers Grimm.
Is this like a PG podcast, by the way?
No, it's not. It's not at all.
Okay, good. That's what they literally do, because then, what more... That's quite a strong attack, isn't it?
They like their nuts.
Yay!
Let's talk about work stuff, because I know, like, I'm fully aware that a lot of this stuff it is work. It's that kind of weird unknown spot between creativity and organization, and like work is kind of across that. Have you worked many part-time jobs since the band really kicked off, or before?
Since the band's kicked off, no, not a single one since the band started.
Damn.
Before, I was working as a note taker.
All right.
For disabled students at uni in MMU, Manchester. And in fact, I had a particular guy that I worked with for ages called Greg, and he unfortunately passed away. But that's what the song Final Form was about, is him.
Okay.
So that came from my experience with Greg.
And that memory, I mean, I don't expect that you imagined that you'd meet someone like Greg, when you first go into that job.
Yep.
And to sort of see that and take it as it comes. And I think those kinds of places where maybe you don't expect to make connections, and then connections happen.
Yeah, not at all. It was we were pretty close in age, really. And there was just lots of, I don't know, there's that job, I was going to just take him into uni and write down everything the lecturer says, because he couldn't write, couldn't move his hands. But then I would start spending more and more time at his place, just like playing video games and stuff. And and we formed a friendship. He came to see the band, I think when we played at Night and Day, and he was always really supportive of it.
Great.
And he was just a cool guy. And it was nice to be friends with him, really.
It is. I know this is probably going to sound really green, but I don't care. Is that when you can forge friendships in unlikely places, it's something very special. You know, making friends at the skate park or making friends with the guy who's 3 times your age at the pub, or, you know, lots of these people who work behind, you know, maybe you shop from them once a week. I value highly those relationships.
Yeah, because they're the first to not happen.
How do you mean?
If that's not a too weird way of putting it.
Because you didn't need them to happen.
They're usually the ones that. Yeah, you don't. No one goes out to look for them, or you know, they're just an extra. They're additional to what you need in your life. Yeah, but I think you do need them.
Yeah, big time. I mean, would it be too far? Would it be too wacky of me to pull that back to making music? And maybe it's a bit of a Rick Rubin thing to say that, you know, when you're making a record, the idea that hopefully there's something happens that you didn't expect.
Oh yeah, there has to be. In fact, we usually have at least, and we thank God we do, at least one occasion when we make a record where someone will come into the room while we record, you know, listening back, and say like, "What the fuck is this?" Or like, "What genre is this?" Or what are we doing? And in all seriousness, and that's the moment we always know, right, we're doing something good. Is that. If that doesn't happen, then we're probably making some bollocks. Brilliant.
Hey, Jonathan, thank you so much for being up for chatting with me. I love these kinds of, you know, the stories that you've been telling and the kind of ruminations. That's exactly what I want to do here. You know, thank you for
I'm a ruminator.
I'm the ruminator. It's the Terminator's cousin.
Yeah.
Could we just end with, you know, I love hearing kind of work fail stories, work gaff stories. I mean, I worked down the road here not too long ago, a couple of years ago, and was supposed to be tour guiding kids who their parents had paid quite a lot of money for them to each day do 3 or 4 things. You know, go to they're from Spain, and I was taking them to different courses. And one day, I lost 3 of them on the tube, and they missed all their classes that their parents had paid for. And I found them. Right, it's cool. It's okay.
What age are we talking about
15.
Here?
So in the middle ground of being like, you should be
like
looking after
kids.
them, but you're not completely sure. No.
Yeah, that's fine. Fuck them.
And that place is now closed down, the school that I worked at, which speaks volume. I mean, I wonder, those kinds of mistakes, and, you know, I think that I'm asking in playing music as well, you know, maybe something's messed up on stage and you've had to kind of face that problem when it comes.
Absolutely, yeah. There was a classic bad gig very early on. Have you ever been to the Thekla in Bristol?
I have, on the boat.
It's a boat, yeah, and it's sort of smelly, but I adore it. Let's be clear. It was actually owned by a member of the Bonzo Dog Doodah band, who one of my favorite, one of the biggest influences on this band, actually.
I've never listened.
They're great. They're kind of like Monty Python-esque 60s ridiculous satirical band.
Nice.
Anyway, I was playing the keyboard in those days, straight across the front, looked lame as fuck. And anyway, during, I think NASA is on Your Side, the whole stand just concertinaed and just dropped right on my feet, just like had a keyboard 1 second, didn't have one the next, in the middle of sort of a song, you know, like a dramatic song. And it was just like, right. And obviously the music stopped because I was playing it too. So it wasn't like everyone just carried on. It was just, yeah. What do you do? I can't remember what I did, actually.
Well, did you? Yeah. Because I guess you really have 2 options. I guess you can pretend it didn't happen, or you can.
But I couldn't. There's absolutely no way because the piano stopped, and then that was the song. Was the piano?
It's part of it, guys. Guys, part of it.
There's just no way, no fooling.
So there he was here on 101 Part-Time Jobs, Jonathan Higgs from Everything Everything. I hope you're good. I hope you enjoyed that. I did. Mountainhead. It's out the 1st of March. They're touring. Go see them. DistroKid supports this show. They're a great way to get your music out there. You don't need a label if you don't really need one. That's it. You can go to distrokid.com, and if you're putting out music, distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. You can get 30% off your first year when you sign up now. If you're in a band, you're an artist, you think about releasing music, go to DistroKid. Over 1 million users prefer it over any other service to get your music out there. This is the best way. This is just how it works now. You're in a bedroom, you can make music, you can put it out on Spotify, Apple, everywhere. This is the way to do it. You can also share, file sharing on DistroKid. They do everything. distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, see you on Thursday when I got an episode with Ed Harcourt. We did a couple of live episodes the other week with Idols. You may have seen some of the posts about them. I fucking spent all week on Instagram. My eyes were hurting and going square. The next one is with Bob Vylan on the 7th of April. It's a Sunday at Bush Hall in West London. There are some tickets left. Head to 101parttimejobs.com/live. I'm looking forward to having you. See you soon.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.